Hi, everyone. Good morning, almost afternoon. Hope you're all enjoying the conference so far. We're really excited to bring a very large amount of new feature announcements and capabilities for you all. Hope you saw a little bit this morning with Brad. He kind of mentioned a few of our launches. This session is to go more in depth into those individual launches, do some demos, explain the use cases and how you can put them into action in your environments. Hopefully today, that would be amazing. So to start off, we're going to talk about the AWS Vision, and we're going to frame each one of our feature launch announcements into those three points of our AWS FinOps Vision. The first is optimization is easy to implement and safe at scale. And the idea here is that we want to make sure optimization is accessible, it's easy to implement in your environment. You can take more recommendations easier because they're more trustworthy and easy to explain to your counterparts, your engineering teams, and so on. Second, every dollar is visible, optimized, and aligned to business value. There's a couple of key points here. The first is that it's every dollar, so you have cost visibility on every type of spend in your AWS bill. And then, of course, aligning those, whether that's chargeback, showback, or whatever process you use to understand the relationship between your spend and the business units that drive that spend. And then the third vision is FinOps is effortless, intelligent and autonomous, which Brad touched on a little bit more this morning. And we're excited about this because we're really seeing the acceleration of FinOps use cases with AI capabilities. The agent, which we talked about this morning, the ability for us to do a lot of the undifferentiated heavy lifting of FinOps that maybe is not so much fun for humans, but still needs to be done. Like, how many of you have spent way too much time working on tagging strategies? Yeah, see, that's the sort of stuff we really think AI is a great fit for. So the undifferentiated heavy lifting, so you can spend more of your time working with your counterparts and setting strategy and vision for how FinOps empowers your business. Okay, so first, I want to talk about the Vision 1, optimization is easy. Now, how many of you saw this announcement this morning, the new AWS State of the Cost Efficiency Report? Yeah? So here's the QR code for it. Go ahead and pull it up. You can read it after this session or in between. We're really excited because at reInvent last year, about 6-7 months ago, we launched the cost efficiency metric. How many of you have seen the cost efficiency metric inside the Cost Optimization Hub? Okay, so for those of you that haven't seen it, inside of our product, the Cost Optimization Hub, you have an efficiency score. The score will tell you what percentage of your spend does not have a recommendation. So the denominator is amount of spend that you can optimize. The numerator is how much savings we're finding for you across all of our different types of recommendations. And so it's a pretty simple score. We designed it to be simple so you can explain it to your leaders pretty easily without having a ton of slides or documents to read. And what we heard from our customers is, this is great, I really like seeing my score, but how am I doing? Is my score good or bad? Even when we launched this score at reInvent, we were at the FinOps event at the Rock House, and a bunch of FinOps practitioners were all surrounding me and asking, like, so is my score good or bad? And I'm like, well, what's your score? And the first thing I noticed is that everybody had already gone and looked at their score and knew what it was. The second thing is nobody wanted to share what their score was. They were sort of embarrassed. They didn't want to step forward and announce it. And then finally, after 30 seconds of sort of awkward pause, somebody kind of proudly stepped forward and said, my score is 94%. And I thought that was pretty awesome that not only did somebody have the bravery to kind of step forward and share what their score was, but that they had such a high score. That was impressive. So we kept getting this question whenever we would have conversations with customers, hallway conversations, FinOps conversations. And so we did the analysis here, and we wanted to share that the average score is 83%. And since you're all FinOps practitioners in this room, or FinOps adjacent, I'm sure your score is better than this. So pat yourselves on the back a little bit. This score is actually not bad, because it means 83% of your cloud spend is not eligible for additional savings with savings plans, RIs, right-sizing idle. So 83% is actually not too bad of a score, but the top 25% most efficient spenders, depending on smaller or larger, they're in the 90s. So this is kind of where you can target what a mature FinOps organization is going to hit for this score. Now, we broke this score up into a couple of categories: smaller customers, larger customers, kind of roughly correlated to SMB versus enterprise. And what we see, there's some differences here. Smaller customers have a bigger range of scores. Maybe they don't have a FinOps organization or FinOps activities, but they actually have a little bit higher top end of score. The top 25% smaller customers are at 96% efficiency. It's a pretty high, staggering number. But they have a 52-point spread between the low and the high number. Whereas larger customers, the top 25% is 92%. Now, their spread is 35 points, so it's a little bit more narrow, showing that enterprises typically are buying savings plans, doing some RI management, things a little bit more consistently. That means that the smaller customers may have more room to optimize and impact their margin and their business. But no matter if you're a smaller organization or a larger, both cohorts of customers hit high scores. Now, the next thing we noticed about the score is the top 25% highest efficiency customers are doing some things pretty consistently across the board. The first thing they do is we see they enable memory metrics. Actually, how many of you have enabled memory metrics for your instances? Okay, I see some people I know that have spent time on this. This is great. So the top 25% most efficient customers are turning on memory, either CloudWatch or third-party APM products, and that actually lowers your score. But we find that customers that did that have a higher score because there's more savings to go get. It's more enticing. The recommendations have memory data, so engineers trust them more effectively, and they achieve more of that savings. So 8 to 30% additional savings is exposed for every single right-size recommendation when there's memory. So this is a significant amount of savings customers can go get when you do have that memory data. The second thing we saw on the top 25% customers of efficiency is that they customize their recommendations. You go into Compute Optimizer or Cost Optimization Hub or Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer, and you play with the settings. You might change the look-back period. You might adjust the headroom or threshold for utilization. And we noticed that when customers make those adjustments, on average, they're 3 to 4 percentage points higher on cost efficiency. Now, it might not sound like a big change, but when you look across all of the customer base, it's actually a significant amount of additional savings achieved. What this tells me is that when the FinOps team is highly engaged, working with engineering teams, customizing recommendations, listening to the engineers and their concerns, and tuning those recommendations to fit their needs, the engineers take those recommendations at a higher rate, and you get more savings. The third thing we see, very common across the top 25%, is they don't do just savings plans or commitments. They mix in idle, they mix in right size, and the customers that don't do that but still have a very high amount of savings plan coverage, the actual savings from right sizing and idle kind of goes away. So for customers with above a 95% savings plan coverage amount, 65 to 80% of the right size and idle recommendations vanish because you will no longer save money from them because they are already committed and paid for. So when you hit above that 95% amount of coverage, you are saving a lot of money from commitments, but there are a lot of potential resources at play that may be oversized, may not be running actually critical business workloads that you're paying that fully burdened commitment cost for. So what we see with customers that are mixing and matching, right-sizing, idle, and commitments is they actually burn down the potential savings number 4 times faster than customers that do not. So the combination of right-sizing, commitments, and idle all together are the customers that are moving really quickly down the path of maturity for cost efficiency. For customers that are only commitments, they do have a high efficiency score, but the burn down rate of how much potential savings is reducing is a lot lower. So the correct sequence to achieve that compound savings from optimization is start with your idle resource deletions, right size your resources, and then add the commitments. And we'll go over a couple of the new features we're announcing today that will help you achieve these outcomes. Cool. Okay, we're gonna switch gears. So this analysis report was a lot of fun to write. We spent several months on it, but this helped inform what new features we build in addition to all the feedback we received from you all in our customer conversations, feature requests, and events like this. So one of the feature launches we're announcing today is we are doubling the number of idle recommendations in Compute Optimizer from 6 to 12. We're really excited about this one because we hear from customers and from the engineering counterpart teams that the idle recommendations are the easiest, most obvious recommendations to take at scale. FinOps teams have reported to us many times that there's less arguing and debating and conflict with engineering teams when you have obvious idle resources that are very easy to clean up. So we've been working on this for a while, and we're proud to announce we now have idle recommendations for Elasticache, DynamoDB, MemoryDB, DocumentDB, Workspaces, and SageMaker endpoints. What this means is each one of those resources we now detect via CloudWatch metrics, usage metrics, and a lot of different usage patterns what idle truly means. Now, we worked with each one of these 6 service teams to understand what exactly defines idle. Is it user connection count? Is it cache hit rate? Is it CPU, like our old idle recommendations for EC2? And so each one of these idle recommendations is based on the knowledge and expertise of each of these individual service teams. The idea here is that we want to remove any sort of risk of failover, backup, intentionally idle resources, so that way you have high trust in the idle recommendations and you can just take them straight to the engineering teams to go save that money. These are available today. You can open up Cost Optimization Hub or Compute Optimizer right now and see 6 new types of recommendations. And just be aware, it might actually lower your efficiency score because there's more money to go save, but it's a nice way to go get that money back and show really nice growth in your cost efficiency. Okay, I'm gonna take a breath here. We're gonna switch gears again. Now we're gonna switch to savings plans. How many of you have used Savings Plans Purchase Analyzer? That's awesome. It's one of my favorite products. Mary on my team, she's been working on Purchase Analyzer for a long time, and we hear from customers all the time that it really makes savings plans easier to understand and use. And we're excited about this launch because you can now set a target percentage of your spend that you would like covered by savings plans, and then see the resulting amount you should purchase to hit that target coverage. This is exciting because what we heard from customers is we provide a recommendation today, and it's mathematically the highest amount of savings you can get, but you always want to trim it down a little bit to leave room for right-sizing, idle, or maybe if your business is changing their usage patterns in the future or you have low confidence in the usage. So what a lot of customers did was open up a spreadsheet, buy software, do these long multi-week or multi-month processes to figure out the purchase amounts. So now we're pleased to announce in the Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer, you can type in a percentage, run the analysis, you can see the coverage, utilization, and savings graphs within minutes, and just click Add to Cart and make your purchase. So you no longer need to be doing spreadsheets, manual math on these things. And the really cool part about Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer, it actually runs a part of the month-end savings plan allocation code and logic, so there's no concern about accuracy or relevance, because it's actually using your real per-hour usage data to do the analysis. So I've got a bit of a demo for you. They wouldn't let me put a podium up here, so we have a demo video that I'll talk through. So if you go to the Billing and Cost Management console, you'll see on the left side, underneath Savings Plans, you'll see the Purchase Analyzer product. You can click on that, and inside Purchase Analyzer, you'll see hopefully what you're used to: Compute Savings Plans, Database Savings Plans, Instant Savings Plans, and SageMaker Savings Plans. And you can pick which savings plan type you're looking to analyze and make a purchase decision on. You can also choose between purchasing at a payer account level or at a linked account level. If you're looking to do analysis to buy a savings plan at a linked account level, you can pick the individual linked account. Or the more ideal solution, you buy at the payer account so your whole organization gets the most amount of benefit from your savings plan. For us, in this demo, we're gonna do a 1-year all upfront savings plan. And as we get started here, we're gonna look at the look back period. There's a few options here. You can do 7 days, you can do 30 days, 60 days, or my favorite is a custom date range. And the custom date range is pretty cool because you can pick weekends or weekdays, and this is even more powerful with coverage because you can target a specific coverage amount for, say, weekdays versus weekends. So picking your date range allows you to be really precise with exactly how much coverage you'd like to have in your environment. You can also exclude soon-to-be expiring savings plans. So if you're planning for a renewal or you want to change your amount of coverage and lower it, you can remove a savings plan that you currently have that's going to expire soon and do that analysis. Now, for the first run, what we're going to do is we're going to just get the recommended amount. This will show us the ideal highest amount of savings you can get in the real world based on your usage. So we're going to run this analysis, and we're going to see what the ideal mathematical highest savings amount is. So it says $7.82 an hour is the purchase recommendation, and that will get you about 92% of coverage, and that yields 89% utilization of that savings plan purchase. And the total savings amount is something like $1,750, $1,748. So that's how much savings we'll get with the ideal highest amount of savings. But we don't want 96% coverage. Say we want to try 90% coverage. So you can now click on target coverage, type in a number like 90%, and we're going to rerun this analysis and see how much savings we're leaving on the table by reducing our coverage amount. We can rerun this same analysis, and now we have a dollar figure on what the price difference is between the highest savings and then something more like a target number like 90. In this case, this runs. I can see now it shows $1,650 of savings. So we lose a little bit of savings, but we can also see that there's a little bit of usage still left over that could be covered with an additional savings plan in the future. So what if that's still, I want to check to see if maybe 80% will still get me that same amount of savings or pretty close to it and leave a little bit of spend left over for maybe I've got some idle cleanup. So now I can test what is the difference between 90% coverage and 80% coverage. So we're going to type in 80% on the coverage chart, and we're going to compare. So 90% shows us $1,650 of savings. Let's check what 80% coverage gets us and see if it's really close or if it's really starting to move away. So we're going to run this same analysis. And here we can see 80% coverage gets us $1,490 a month of savings. So that's still pretty good, but you can see there's a lot of on-demand spend left over in the red at the top of the graph. The purchase amount is $5.88 an hour, but it does give us that 80% coverage. Now the question is, did I want some of that savings back? Maybe I want to try to find a meet in the middle point to try to extract as much savings as possible while also reducing my risk of over or unused savings plans or over coverage. So let's just try 85% real quick and see how much of that discount we get back. Okay, we put in 85% coverage and we go back up to $1,580 of savings. So we're only giving up a couple $100 to reduce the total amount of coverage we have. We have a nice 85% flat coverage amount, and we leave room for more optimization in our future. Now with target coverage, you can come back here every week or every month, redo this calculation to hit your preferred target coverage, and then quickly get the amount of purchase that would hit that number and add to cart and purchase. So the idea here is that you can come into Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer every week or every month, recalculate your preferred coverage, add to cart and purchase, and you no longer have to be game planning with spreadsheets or doing multi-year planning here. The tool does all of this for you. Cool. Okay, we're going to switch gears to Vision 2. Every dollar visible, optimized, and aligned to business value. We've got some pretty cool launches in here too. How many of you have used the new dashboarding inside the console, the billing dashboards? Okay, a handful. All right, we're really excited to keep expanding the billing dashboards. And the announcement we have today for the billing dashboards is that we now have budgets visibility in the dashboards. What that means is you can now look at your cost budgets per account, per region, wherever you've set budgets, in the same dashboard where you have your cost and usage data. So now on the same screen, you can look at budget per account and cost per account. So it's really easy to correlate your spend versus your budget amount. And because this is integrated with your reports already, the reports already come with PDF export, CSV export, email export. So now that budget and cost data is easy for you to summarize and send to your management chain, your CFO, whoever you need to correlate your spend data to your budget data and track against budget. So we're excited about this. You can, because you have a lot of control to resize the widget, move it around on the screen, and build custom reports inside the console that match your business scope and ownership level. Okay, I'm going to keep speeding through. I have another launch here we'd like to talk about, credits detail. How many of you have struggled with AWS credits and trying to allocate them out? Okay, your days of struggle are over. We're excited to announce that the credit detail page now has a ton more detail. You will now have a credit ID, and you can now track all of these credits, and you can even pause them. So if you have a certain team that earned the credits, you can pause until they get started with their work, so they're the ones consuming the credits. You can now correlate the credit ID. We added it into the CUR, so you can do chargeback, showback, and allocation of your credits now as well. What we heard from customers is you have told us that savings plans are much easier to allocate, chargeback, and showback with all the new granularity and cost visibility options, and you want that same ability with credits. So the idea here is we're going to bring credits up to that same experience as savings plans, where you have full visibility into your credits, you have IDs for your credits, you can pause your credits, and you're in control of how these credits are consumed. You also can see these credits refreshing on a daily cadence, so they're always up to date depending on your usage patterns, and all of that is correlated into the CUR, so you can ingest it into your dashboards and reports that you may already have as well. That's not all for credits, though. We also are providing more granular sharing controls for credits. And what this means is that you can now take a credit and associate it to a cost category. And what this means is you can take a group of accounts and pin a credit to that group of accounts. So if your AI team got a bunch of GPU credits, you can pin that credit directly to that group that is the one that you want to consume the credit. It's just like the RI savings plan sharing project, where you can take one of those commitments and group it or associate it to a group. So this allows you to isolate those credits in case you have regulatory reasons where you need credits to be consumed by a certain team, and combined with the ability to pause credits and start them at certain dates, these two controls allow you to manage credits as a first-class citizen, just like savings plans and reservations. So we're excited about all these new credit controls, and we're excited to hear from you all how it's working. So please come to us with feedback on how you're doing credit management, and let us know if these new credit controls are allowing you to manage credits as effectively as savings plans. That's our goal. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. We have so many launches. How many of you use cost intelligence dashboards or Kudos or awesome? Well, I love these things. So I'm going to tell a little backstory here. The team that built the intelligence dashboards was just a team of Amazon employees that wanted to help build reporting and make cost management easier. Never had the ownership or the purview or the requirement to do it. They just did it because they love serving their customers. And it was just an organization of people across the company that all wanted to solve this problem together. Really, really cool dashboards. The announcement we have today, this launched a little bit ago, but Focus now has Kudos dashboards now has a Focus dashboard. This is really cool if you have a lot of data sources that are exhausting data in a Focus spec. My favorite feature about this is that it'll actually take Focus 1.0 data, convert it to 1.2, and still show it in the dashboard. So it's hyper flexible to work with your data structure. This will give you multi-cloud cost visibility, multi-vendor visibility, and it also includes zero-touch deployment. So if you've ever struggled with deploying Kudos dashboards and using QuickSight and all of that, we have now automated deployment, so it's now easier than ever before to get started with the Kudos dashboards. These dashboards are custom cost management visibility dashboards that give you visibility into spend by all sorts of dimensions. So this is much more customizable than out-of-the-box reports because you are fully in control of how these dashboards are configured and owned. Now, inside the Kudos dashboards, we also have a lot of additional improvements we've made. And if you haven't met Yuri, he's around here somewhere. He's just the mastermind of so many advanced improvements to our Kudos dashboards. These are a bunch of other improvements we've made to the Kudos dashboards. I'm just going to touch on one or two here. My favorite one is GenAI cost attribution. And I was talking to Yuri about this a couple weeks ago, and it was kind of funny because he then went and launched a dashboard about a week later after we talked about it. But I wanted to see the total cost per token for each of the different models in Bedrock. And then I wanted to see what is the average cost per token for my organization so I could start to track, like, are my teams getting really addicted to Opus and are constantly using it, or are they really varying their model selection? So understanding my average cost per token compared to the cost for each of the individual models, I could like measure how close we are to just using Opus for everything. And so I can have some more intelligence on like token consumption by model. And so there's a new dashboard in the Kudos dashboards that shows you GenAI cost attribution and consumption by model, by region, by all sorts of different dimensions. It's really powerful, and it's a really great step forward on tokenomics, JR's favorite topic. We also have more cost visibility on Kiro subscription analytics. If your organization is using Kiro, you can now look at per user usage of Kiro, which is really cool. You can see who's burning credits really fast, or ask them like, hey, how does this associate with the business value you're delivering? How many launches are you doing? And you can correlate some of that stuff to the usage patterns you see in Kiro. Also, another popular conversation, which I'm sure a lot of you have had, is extended support visibility. So there's a new dashboard in Kudos that shows you the cost associated to extended supports, and it'll even show you in the future at what dates the cost will increase as extended support fees are scheduled out. So feel free to grab that QR code and look at the Kudos dashboards. There's a really cool interactive demo as well if you want to test it out before deploying it in your environment. Cool, okay, so that's the end of my time. I'm gonna hand over to Letian Feng, my manager. He's gonna talk about the agentic capabilities we've been deploying, and we're really excited to show you a lot of really cool new features.
All right, thank you very much, Rick. Now let's switch gear to talk about AI for FinOps. So today, a lot of our customers tell us that FinOps is operating manually within the organization. It's dashboard-driven. It runs on the cadence of monthly reviews or weekly reviews. And when a cost anomaly fires, somebody has to investigate it manually. It's not because people are not trying to make it operating at the speed of the business. It's because the work, the execution is generally hard. You need a cost expertise, you need access to the right data, to the business context, and knowledge about like who owns what. So we believe FinOps should be three things. It should be effortless, it should be intelligent, and it should be autonomous. So for effortless, what we mean is that the cost answers should be available to every engineers and FinOps practitioners when they need them. There's no need to send an email, cutting a ticket. All of these things should be at the fingertip of whoever needs it. The second one is it should be intelligent. The FinOps system should understand what your organization does, who owns what is your tagging conventions, what is your organization structure, how you allocate costs, and apply that understanding to all the FinOps activities that you run. The third one is that it needs to be autonomous. We believe that most of the most common FinOps workflows, like anomaly investigation, recurring reviews, optimization follow-ups, these kind of execution tasks can be delegated to an agent while the human focus on high judgment activities. For example, driving FinOps culture, setting up cost allocation strategies, or making sure that the engineers are prioritizing the performance and cost conversations. So that is our vision. And at FinOps X, we launched 3 capabilities for AI for FinOps. The first one is the AI-powered cost analysis in Cost Explorer. So Cost Explorer is one of our biggest cost visibility products. And now you can ask cost questions in plain English, like, show me the top 10 cost driver last month, and how does my compute spend change month over month? You can type that into Cost Explorer through Amazon Q, and Amazon Q will automatically update the filters and group by dimensions in the Cost Explorer dashboard. There's no need to configure these configurations manually. The Amazon Q will do it for you. We're also adding one-click report explanation capabilities. So when you look at a Cost Explorer dashboard, there is a button at the top which says Analyze with Amazon Q. So if you have any questions to understand, like what is the cost driver, you can just click that button, and then we will provide you a detailed natural language explanation of what you're seeing on Cost Explorer. So this two-way integration allows you to lower the barriers of cost analysis across the organization. So every engineers, every finance leader, and FinOps practitioners will be able to get the same quality of insights without needing to learn and be an expert in the tool itself. The second launch that we had at FinOps X is the cost anomaly investigation. When the cost anomaly is filed, somebody used to go to Cost Explorer, correlate what happened on their cost metrics with the operational metrics. So we've now built that one-click structured root cause analysis for any cost anomalies. So you can launch it directly within the cost anomaly detection console or from Amazon Q. Just one click. And it shows you a detailed analysis about what happened, when, what, and why. And this works across organizations. So we understand that a lot of customers and FinOps teams work within the management account, and this capabilities allows you to correlate the cost metrics across organization in the management account with operational data like CloudTrail API logs that each member account has, so that you don't have to go and switch across different accounts. So far, everything we talk about is to make FinOps more effortless and more intelligent. But what if the investigation starts from the moment that it actually fires? What if the cost reports lands in a mailbox every Monday morning at 9 a.m. without you having to do anything? That's where we're going next. We launched AWS FinOps Agent in preview to make FinOps effortless, intelligent, and autonomous. A lot of our customers tell us that their FinOps team is usually like 1-person or 3-person or 5-person team that doesn't usually scale with the size of the organization. And they really need an agent to dedicate these routine execution tasks while they can focus on the strategic thinkings. So what can FinOps Agent do for you? So at preview, the FinOps Agent supports 4 use cases. The first one is to get cost answers the moment you need them through a natural language chat interface. The second one is it can investigate cost anomaly faster than ever before through event-driven automation. The third one is it surfaces cost optimization recommendations where the team works, like in Jira or in Slack. And lastly, it can run scheduled automation to generate cost reports without you having to log into the console every week. So let's look at a quick demo of it. So this is the context page. FinOps requires a lot of organization context, so I just uploaded the organization context file, which includes account to owner mapping. And you can see that there is one context file uploaded there. Now let me ask questions about what is my cost in May 2026, and how does it compare with the month of April. You can see that the FinOps agent invokes the cost analysis skills, calls the Cost Explorer API, retrieves the data, do number crunching internally, and come up with a detailed report, like your make cost. And it also provides you a lot of key takeaways, like what is the most important cost drivers of your May spend, and how does that correlate to your April spend. You can also ask a question about what is my cost of my data platform? So data platform is kind of like an organization's internal terminology where like each team has their own names and sometimes a team owns multiple accounts. And the FinOps agent is able to use the context files that you uploaded it and resolve the question to the account IDs and organization structures, and then pull Cost Explorer data based on your organization context. So this provides you and engineers the capability to ask cost-related questions in your organization's vocabulary without having to learn all the tools that they usually have to learn. Now let's look at the second demo, which is invest cost anomalies. So I just prompt FinOps agent to analyze the largest cost anomaly over the past 30 days, correlate with CloudTrail events, and tell me who owns the account. Again, the FinOps agent invokes the anomaly investigation skills and pull all the data from Cost Explorer as well as from CloudTrail to correlate the cost metrics with operational data and provide you a detailed analysis within a few seconds. So for this particular anomaly, you can see that this anomaly is caused by somebody using Cloud 4.6 Sonnet model. So the detailed reports show you what happened. You can see a table here. You can also see what is the IAM principle that caused the cost spike. And then based on that organization context, you can understand whether that is an expected change or this is a real anomaly that requires manual investigation. All right, so what happens, like now in production, you probably want to have these anomaly investigations set up as an automation so that it triggers the moment when anomaly is detected instead of having engineer going to the agent and do it manually. So within FinOps agent, you're able to create an event-driven automation to listen for cost anomaly events. And you can see here, like in the demo, that we set up an anomaly detection automation to say, like, automatically investigate when there's an anomaly that is greater than $100 or above. And the agent take that input and then create an automation. So automation is the way that we make FinOps agent autonomous. So that's whenever there's anomaly fires, you can set it on a schedule, like every Monday morning, do something. And with all these automations, like it automatically allows you to trigger the FinOps workflows or activities without human involvement here. So here's the automation page, and you can click on the anomaly detection auto investigation tasks. And then it will show you the details about what the automation is, whether it's enabled, when it happens, and what is the instructions. So from now on, every cost anomaly above this threshold get investigated and send the result automatically to Slack. So this is an example of what a Slack message will look like for an automated cost investigation report. So a lot of times, like, customers also want to do customization. This is one of the top reasons why customers invest in FinOps. So let me ask a question about idle RDS instances. This is one of the most common source of wastes. Is there any idle RDS instance in my environment, and what should I do with these instances? So the agent pulls cost optimization recommendations from Compute Optimizer and Customization Hub, summarize the idle RDS instances into reports. And it also provides you a procedure on how you would remediate these idle RDS instances. So you can actually see, like, there is a CLI command sample at the bottom, and then the agent also calls out that for RDS instances, if you stop the RDS instance, it will come up automatically after 7 days. So stopping the instance is good for short-term cost savings. if you confirm that you don't need the instance for the long term, the better option is to take a snapshot of the data and delete the instance. And in case you need it later, you can always restore the instance back from the snapshot. And now let's get the recommendation to the hands of the engineer who owns the instances. So I asked the agent to cut a Jira ticket to the engineering teams that owns the instance. And then the agent will propose, this is the Jira ticket content with all the details and recommended actions step by step. Before the ticket goes to Jira, it'll ask you, should I go ahead to create this ticket? So the FinOps agent provides human-in-the-loop guardrails that allows you to ensure that whenever any write executions or mutating executions get executed, there is a human there to make sure that any mutating action is validated. And you just need to click approve, and then the ticket is created in the Jira, in the ENG Jira spaces. So this is a sample ticket that is in the Jira. Now the ticket is now filed. So many of our early customers are using the FinOps agent to transform how their FinOps works. So customers like Workday, like Mitre 10, like Convera, and Aviv Group, they're all our early customers. And you can see the details about how they're using FinOps agent to transform their FinOps operations in the blog that we just published. All right, now we have reached the end of the presentation. Just to recap what we talk about in this presentation, we talk about the state of cost efficiency report with 83% as the average score across our customer bases. We talk about more idle resource detections. We talk about savings plan purchase analyzer target coverage, the budget dashboard, custom credit allocation, and kudos dashboard. And we also talk about 3 AI capabilities in Cost Explorer, Cost Investigations, and AWS FinOps Agent. All these capabilities are available today, and we welcome you to, we invite you to use these capabilities, and together, we believe we can transform the future of FinOps to be more autonomous, to be more intelligent, and more effortless. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thanks for watching. Check out the rest of our channel for more FinOps content. Like, subscribe, and leave questions and comments for our speakers. We appreciate your support.